Welcome into Farming Simulator 25 with me, the Midlife Simster. Thanks for joining me on this Things I Wish I'd Known episode. Today we're going to talk about being a lumberjack. This is slightly different to the previous episode where we talked a lot more about the sawmills. What I do need to be very clear about for this episode and the series is this is primarily aimed at people who are new to the game or just starting out with forestry. If you've been playing Farming Simulator for some time or have no interest in the forestry aspect, then this video may not be for you. You never know, you might pick something up if you do want to stick with it, or that you basically weren't aware of, or maybe it could inspire you to, delve into an element of the game that you've previously avoided. But like I say, if you're an experienced person playing this game and you've done loads of forestry, then don't have a go at me. This isn't aimed for you. None of this is to say that by any means I'm some sort of woodland master and lumberjack legend. I'm absolutely not. But these are things that I wish I'd known when I'd started out playing the game and had started out kind of delving into the forestry element of it. So if you do happen to find any of this useful, then do please consider giving it a like and a subscribe, and maybe come and check out the current Survivor Roleplay series. But otherwise, let's get started. Okay, this may seem really, really obvious, but genuinely, when I was brand new to the game, I had no idea. I haven't got any concept of farming or even any sort of real useful life skills. So trailers were a bit of a myth to me, and I would end up buying the wrong trailer and then having to go through all that faff. So just be aware of what trailer can go with what. This needs to go on a ball hitch. This is a pin hitch. So there you'll see the little, basically the hole with the round part, that will not go on the ball hitch. It will, however, go on a pin hitch trailer, and just need to be aware of that. This has the option to do both, so it can take both trailers. This can only take a trailer with a ball hitch, so just be aware of that when you're buying your trailers, depending on what setup you're basically running with. Next up, I want to talk about a little trick I picked up ages ago from someone else. This isn't something this is a standard, kind of well-known trick now for all the Farming Simulator community. When you are out doing forestry, one of the hardest things to kind of work out for yourself is basically how long you should be cutting the logs. Now, depending on how you're playing and what equipment you're using and so on, is going to dictate how you play this game. So for example, if I cut down this deadwood tree by here, if we fell it off to the left, that's the other thing. We've talked about this before in the last episode. Make sure you are going as low as you can on the tree, where the ring will turn green, because the bottom of the tree is the most valuable part of the tree. Heaviest part, most amount of wood. Right, so happy days. Side note, we used to, on 22, used to run across the top of here, and you just run your chainsaw like that, and it would cut all the limbs off. Doing it that way now doesn't generally get to the bottom ones. The only way I can find to do it is sort of go diagonally down, step away, so start the chainsaw up, step away, come up to the tree and just run along it this way. So you're kind of going through the tree at that diagonal angle, and that seems to cut them all. Also, weirdly, if you crouch, you'll move faster when you've got a chainsaw in your hand. Don't understand the mechanic there, but that is what it is. Right, so part of your issue with the deadwood tree, or any tree, is knowing how far you should cut it. Now, the reason I'm going to use deadwood for this trick is quite simple. It weighs the least of all the trees. The whole thing is just under 22 meters long. It only weighs 900 kilos. The majority of that weight is going to be at the bottom of the tree at its densest point. So if we come over here to the thinner end, we will be able to cut this. Let's say just have a random cut for there. So there we are. So we got a 10-meter tree now here. Only weighs, what do we say, 96 was that then? Sorry, 9.560 kilo tree. If you then take your deadwood tree, put it up against the trailer you're going to be storing your wood in, and then make another cut roughly where you want. And then we will get rid of this little end out of the way. Thank you very much, mate. This is now your measuring stick. That is movable. And I'll give you a nice idea of basically how much you should cut your trees down with. Now, I need to be very clear about this. If you are doing this and all you've got is a chainsaw and a truck, this isn't going to work for you, because you're going to be having to take much smaller cuts from the bigger trees. So if, for example, let's chop down, let's have a look here. That's a larger now, mark that one up. Yeah, beast. 36-meter lodgepole. So, once again, as far down the bottom of the tree as we can. Down she goes. Let's see if we can't delimit. Whoops. My fault. Wasn't paying enough attention. See, it's tricky, isn't it? You've got to get that angle just right, where you're running along the tree and not stepping over the top of it like I was then. There we go. Just takes a bit of practice, that's all. Let's put that away. So here we have 34 meters a tree and 2.2 tons. So if we were to take our measuring stick... How do I do my measuring stick?
A few moments later.
There it is. Couldn't find it. Right. So, we take our measuring stick, drop it down roughly where we want it. So, yeah, okay, there's a little bit of overhang there. We can just move that forward. Doesn't help by being in the long grass either, really, does it? There you go. So you got your rough idea. There you go. So that now gives you your angle as to where you should be cutting. So you got a nice sized log there. It's going to fit perfectly on a trailer. The difficulty now is you can't pick this up. If you haven't got anything that's going to work for you, it isn't going to happen. Yeah. So that's the thing to keep in mind. You can't just do that by hand. This is solely for when you've got a bit of equipment that's going to allow you to do it, which in this case we do. We got the little skid steer, so we could take this now, basically take that over to our fallen over tree, happy days, pick up our 382 kilos worth of log, drop that into the back of the trunk. The next little sort of follow-on piece of advice I would have for you in terms of using deadwood as your measuring stick is this. When it comes to cutting up and measuring your trees, don't just cut one tree down and then put your measuring stick next to it, cut it, move your measuring stick along, cut it, move your measuring stick along, cut it. Place as many trees as you can next to each other. So ideally, if I was doing this now, I'd have 3, 4, 5 trees here. I'd put this here, and then I'm cutting that tree, that tree, that tree, that tree, that tree. So I'm doing it all in one go. Yes, it takes a little bit of work because, again, it depends on your setup. What have you got to move the trees around? You know, these are big old things weighing in at just over 2 tons each. So it's not like you can easily move them. But if you're doing it in a bit of a spread out area like this, and you've got a tractor that, you know, depending on what rig you're running, you can push these into position so you've got them all lined up together, and it's just 3, 4, 5 at a time. It makes it so much quicker than doing single cut moving, and then taking your measuring stick to the next tree and starting all over again. It's just a much quicker way of doing it. Honestly, I was doing it the other way for ages, and I can't remember who it was I saw do it. It might have been Mr. CLP. I can't remember, but yeah, it and I was so annoyed at myself because I hadn't picked up on the fact that if I just put all the logs together, then it just makes it so much easier. Okay, next thing about chopping the trees. Not all trees are made equal. So you saw with the lodgepole that we cut down over there, yeah. Used it with our measuring stick, and we took basically 382 kilos And we've just got just under 4 meters there, right? So, as now a side example, here we have Scotch pine. So, let's bring this one down. Whoops. Quick delimb. That didn't help having to run over the other tree then, did it? Messed up our flow. Nice. Might have missed one in the middle somewhere. Yeah, I can see it. Just where we had the jump. Cool. Let's get off the torch, please. Thank you. Right, let's go back, grab our measuring stick. Gotta stop losing my measuring stick. Note to self, and note to you guys. Measuring sticks are easy to lose in the forest in the long grass. Dear me. Right, so, found my measuring stick. Basically, got it just about lined up, just about right. There we are. Great stuff. Coming down to there. There's the end of this, the stick. So, straighten that up. Nice. $489 kilos for the Scotch pine. 382 for the lodgepole pine. Both of these are going to bring you a different price when you take them up to the lumber mill. I'm not going to go into the best trees for what. I highly recommend you go and look at Farmer Cop's channel or Driver 53. Even I think DJ Goham does a lot as well, but especially Drive 53 and Farmer Cop. Those are my go-to kind of guys that I watch their videos to learn about this sort of stuff. They do loads of data testing and will be able to give you specific figures around what is the best product for what. But it's just to make you aware that each one is slightly different. And the same will go then for if we cut down. Now then, I should take my measuring stick with me this time so that I stop losing it in amongst the long grass and chopped trees. Go by there, my friend. Aspen tree here, 17 meters. I won't bother delimbing this one because we're only here just to talk about this little bit right there. So roughly get that lined up just about right there. And then straighten our saw out. Obviously it's not going to be perfect, but it's just to show you. 362 for that one. So each one of these has got its own characteristics and will just have an impact on what you're using it for. If you're transferring it into wood chips, if you're selling it as just pure lumber, if you're taking it to a sawmill to then transfer it into beams, all these trees have different benefit to each one, and each one will be better at something else than the other one. So just be aware of that when you're starting out. Next tip just relates to your starting equipment. If I give you an example here, if you start out with standard truck and chainsaw, it all depends on which way you want to go and play the game. For me, if I'm starting a survival roleplay and it is just a case of I'm going to start with a car or a truck of some sorts like this one and my chainsaw, and then I'm going to try and build up. This is generally what I try and go towards because it's a nice early game option. So, things to note. This trailer, by the way, is found within the shop. If you don't know, let me show you very quickly, because it's not in with the trailers. This one is actually in the miscellaneous category, and it's there. It's the Trius for £9,500. We need, on the tip side at the bottom there, you can see D-pad down, back, left, right, and ramp. So then L1 and triangle opens that up and opens the ramp. So once you've opened the ramp, you can actually change the width of the ramp. When I first had it, I'd forgotten all about that and was having no end of issues trying to get these skid steers up here. But yeah, you can then adjust that. R1, and then your right stick is up and down. That'll allow you to move that around. Let's just turn that engine off. A little bit too noisy for us. Hop into this wonderful little beast. It's tight, don't get me wrong, it is really, really tight. But she will go in and out. You've just got to be patient and give it a bit of a wriggle. Because this trailer, I can leave this then wherever I'm doing the logging. If we've got a kind of dense forest like this and I'm going to end up doing loads of the trees, this is now a great setup for me, because I can put the back flap down on the rear trailer and I can cut to sizing logs, and I can basically just start piling these up, latching them on as I pile in the logs into the trailers. Try and remember then to put your straps down over them, keep them in place, stop them jumping around, put another one on top, take one strap off, restrap it, reconnect it, lock them all down. The only thing to be aware of is make sure that you don't have your grab still attached to the log when you drop it in there, because you will end up basically strapping the skid steer to the back of your truck. So just be aware of that. And then this thing can obviously pick up a lot of different, the much better weights. It goes well above our 200 kilo carry weight. So this is a nice early game setup that will really then allow you to push on. Few things to be aware of. Just using base game at the moment, not any additional mods. Not all skid steers are made the same. When you come into the shop and you can see it, and it's always worth paying attention to this stuff. And again, it's something when I started out I wasn't doing enough of. Yeah, you might think, yeah, great, okay, it's only 35 grand, that's going to really change how I play the game. This thing only weighs 2.9 tons, and it's obviously only got 68 horsepower. This one weighs 5.3 tons, and a little, 96 horsepower. The main thing about this one, the Kubota versus the New Holland, is the height at which the arm will extend. It goes considerably, just a couple of maybe a foot or so higher. This will make all the difference depending on your setup and the trailer you're running. Because if you are trying to drop them in to an actual trailer, like a lumber trailer like this, you need to be able to clear the beams. So just be aware of the setup that you're playing, or you're going to have to try and use your ground levels and topography. And I've even given the New Holland a bit of an advantage here, because I've put her slightly back, so they're on a downhill, so technically she's got an advantage, and she's still well below. The other thing is, I don't know if I can get to there, so these logs 6 meters long, both lodgepole pine, 6 meters 559, and can I quite get that, 6 meters 553, so literally a couple of kilos in it, really. Nothing much to talk of. When she's this extended, can you see how much she tips forward and how unstable she is? You've got to be really careful with this one, because she just bounces around all over the place and does little front, what do you used to call them when there was a kid? Endos, is it? There we go. Oh, so if I slam it into reverse, boosh, down she goes. Now you can't always recover it because you can use a claw, get yourself out there, but yeah, she will struggle with stability, especially if you're carrying two logs. The only thing is they do swivel quite a bit, don't they? They're quite difficult to control, these little skid steers, but she will struggle to get these up and over. And just about fit through there, tip over, and you can see how much of an issue she's having. Trying not to fall over. Let's open that up. Claws backwards on this one, isn't it? There we go. And out you go. She will do it, but it's a bit trickier. Whereas, let's hop out of this. Jump in the Kubota. This big brother, especially with a crawler track as well, so much more stable. Gives you that higher grip. Clears that, no problem at all. And out you go. So I know it's a lot of money, but really it's probably only a couple of trailer loads for you. So for me, it's worth spending the extra, getting that extra height, bit more control, can carry a lot more weight, gives you just a better clearance. It's a better machine for logging than that. early game, depending on your setup. Next thing I want to talk about is this, which is the, I don't even know what to say, is it Tafoni GV? Basically, the major thing with this is not only can you stick it on the front of the 3-point there, it really run it off the back. That's what I'd normally do, but I prefer it on the front because it gives me more control for what I'm trying to do. It's great for moving them around and pushing everything into place, but the main benefit that it's got is this. If you press down the left stick, so it's L3, you can then attach it to a log and drag it, and if you touch the L3 again, you attach another one. I can't remember the maximum weight that it can tow, but yeah, it's a fair lot. And then you hold down R1 when you're out of the cab, move your right stick, and you will be able to drag these guys around. The beauty of this is it's really, really good for when you're in sort of confined space, just pulling these things into a more workable area for you to then basically go to work and start cutting them down to suit the relative size. So don't discount this. It is in, I'm sure it's in amongst the forestry equipment. There it is, category winches. 8.5 grand. Really, really valuable bit of kit. Only needs 60 horsepower. There we are. 6.6 ton is the maximum that it can take. So it'll pull several of the lodge poles into the right positions for you. It'll make your life a lot easier. Really useful bit of kit if you're running a tractor setup early doors rather than a truck setup. So keep that one in mind. What I'm going to talk about here now is much more kind of late game, or depending on how you want to play the game. If you're giving yourself a bit of money and you're giving yourself a tree harvester straight off the bat, then happy days. You can obviously do the L1. I say obviously, I'm assuming it's obvious because the game teaches you. But if you hold down L1 and then down on your D-pad, it will line up the harvester for you in the correct position. Yeah, so great. Let me show you that again, and it's going to just go as soon as that green light goes. That ring goes green, then you are in a position to cut. What you need to be aware of is the game is costing you a little bit of money. Now, depending on how many trees you're cutting down, it's skanking you out of a little... Skank, how good a word is that? See how much I can get there? It's only maybe a foot or so, but it can make all the difference in the lumber world. So don't be fooled. Take as much of that tree as you can, pick it up, reverse backwards, let it fall forwards. Down she goes. Beautiful. Manipulate the tree how you want, and you're away. If you just, like I say, the most valuable part of the tree is the bottom of the tree. Why would you leave behind a foot of that lumber? Make yourself some nice piles, then obviously the lighter the tree becomes, the more the head is going to move around. So just give it a little bit of movement. Nothing major, just to line it up. Your last one then normally won't match the size of the other logs, but it's the one that you can go and grab and chuck out the way. It all depends on, again, what you're looking to do with the logs and how you're looking to play the game. But that then becomes a much more manageable pile to go and pick up with whatever kit you're dealing with. Whether it's going to be something like this, where you're using the big crane arm, or we're going back into our skid steers, whatever it's going to be. Which leads me on to the next point. Telehandlers. I love the Merlot. This is one of my, if not my favourite machine in the game at the moment. It is absolutely brilliant. Now, I've set both of these up with a mod that I've talked about in a previous episode, and it's on my top 5 mods. I think it was on the first release. This thing is basically, where is it? It's the Quickie M140 with transport straps. This belongs on the front loaders. However, you can get the attachment, which then converts your telehandler into a front loader attachment, which allows you to place it onto there, which is great. It's a bale spike. It is designed, however, for that, and it's got the, like I say, it's got the straps on it. What it does allow you to do, though, is basically go up the logs, attach them onto the bale spike, and away you go. It's a much quicker way of logging. You'll only probably do 2 logs at a time. I just find it a bit quicker and easier than the log grabs. However, be aware, the Merlot, that is its maximum point that it'll flex. It will not come further back than that. The fence, however, will go 90 degrees. And that is a bit of an easier thing to do, because for me, it's actually the easiest way to do it is basically line these up in exactly this position. You drive up to the logs, and then bang, as soon as you're next to them, R1 and R3 puts the straps around them, and I'll demonstrate it now, but it'll be a lot easier. Side note, for those of you who don't know, and I didn't notice, there's a pin. There's a pin on the front of these. I had no idea, which means you can basically go up to your trailers that we've already talked about, like this one, and hook onto them. Now, you might say, well, what's the benefit in that? When you try and reverse this thing with it, I don't know what it's called, but it's basically like it's a separate axle, so this will spin on its own accord. I cannot get this to reverse where I want it to go. It will never go where I want it to. But it does mean that in theory, depending on your setup, if you want to drive into something, it can detach and spin around. You're then going to be able to turn around and then pull it back out. It might be easier. It all depends on your setup, but that's just one of the benefits you might find with that. So let me just jump into the fence and just show you what I was basically talking about. Now, the reason I go in the Merlot all the time is because it's got the 3-point on the back, but this being able to do the extra little angle might, just for logging purposes, mean I go with the fence. Obviously very unrealistic. Take it with a pinch of salt. You can't see the straps, but they're there. Yeah. And then obviously, just as usual, let's try and lift it over the top of the quota. Thank you, bird. Testing my skills now, aren't I? Whoop, up and over. And then R1, R3, bang, and there you go. Beautiful. Look at it. I make it look easy, don't I? Again, it depends on your setup, depends how you want to play the game, depends on what mods you've got, but that is a nice way of doing it with that system, especially if you're playing, if you've got it, sorry, at the 90-degree angle. So, final tip of the day for me now is in this pile. This is all lodgepole, as you can see. Yeah, it's 5-meter cuts. We use the big tree harvester to do this one. If, as and when you're dropping them off, they get a little bit kind of square if you get it all wrong, don't forget you can come along, get yourself the smallest part, line that up, and just bump things into position. Yeah, just manipulate the pile very gently with what you've got. Sometimes easier to use the end, so like a kind of fitting stick. There is a mod which is attaches onto I think it's onto the big like JCB, and it's the same principle. You're basically moving the swing arm, and there's like a kind of like a whack plate, I suppose you would call it. But yeah, just exactly the same principle. Just use your lighter log. The physics of the game will allow you to do this. Now it depends. You can push the big logs. Yeah, you can whack this one just about and get it moving, just like that. See, so all is not lost if the pile is all over the shop. You can just use one of the lighter ones and knock it around. Just takes a little bit of getting used to and a little bit of practice. Now, what I would say, all of the things I've talked about here today are specifically, as I said, for people who are new to the game, haven't played forestry before, just picked this up, or looking to start going into forestry. Just some things for you to start considering. I play on console. Everything I'm going to talk about is based on console. If you're a PC player, I envy you. Happy days. A, your graphics are better. B, your frames per second are better. C, you have the ability to pick up the, what is it, like the unlimited strength or whatever it's called, and you can literally handle the whole lodgepole pine just by picking it up and throwing it around. Great for you. Sadly, us lower level PlayStation owners and Xbox owners, we don't get that joy. So this is for console players. Hopefully, I mean, there's nothing to say that there isn't something in this that PC players wouldn't pick up and find useful. But, like I say, I play on console, so everything I do is going to be based around that. for me, forestry is all about your setup and how you want to play the game. There's so many different ways you can go with it. Yeah, you can start off with a massive machine and make yourself life really easy, making huge piles and just start going absolutely at it and cutting through the trees. Or you can start off with a truck and a chainsaw and just start throwing things in and build up your empire from there. Hopefully, in amongst all of this, you've gotten some thoughts, some tips, maybe a little bit of interest of like, oh, I'll try that out. Yeah, either way, if you have found it useful, give it a like and a subscribe. Come and check out what we're doing on the main series. But I think we'll call it a day for there. So, as I always say, until next time, be happy, stay safe, and we'll speak again soon. Take care.